Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we're going to be talking about LBRY / Odysee, run by Lab from Mars, and why I'm not a huge fan of everything that's happened over the past little while, and what I think about it now, what it used to be, and just kind of laying all this out for everyone, because I did a little Twitter thread where I kind of ranted about this, and I had several people say that I should make a video, I should make this a little bit more obvious and explain it a little bit, explain the nuances. So I think that's fair. And to people on LBRY and Odysee, this isn't like me going after LBRY. It's more so just like explaining why it's not going to be recommended by me in the future. And hopefully give them a little bit of pushback to keep them, accountable and on their toes and thinking about this stuff and actually caring about it, because it doesn't feel like they're putting enough attention or, following up with the things that they're supposed to be doing, so to speak. So this is all a little obscure. You don't really know what I'm talking about yet. So let's jump into it and talk about what happened to LBRY after a quick word from my sponsor today. A big thank you and shout out to my sponsor Cake Wallet, which is an open source, non-custodial Bitcoin and Monero wallet that also has a built-in exchange. It's available on iOS and Android. Thanks again to my sponsor. Let's jump into it. So this is Odysee, as you might know. If you use it, it's it's a good platform. It's got a lot of stuff on here. I appreciate what this offers. The big issue that I see with this problem, with this platform now, is that people believe that this is just the centralized front end and LBRY the application, which I'll bring up, and this is the decentralized version. But really, the only difference between these two that I can see or explain from a layman's perspective is simply just a couple content filters. This is not decentralized, and obviously Odysee is not decentralized. The reason is because they've been able to ban accounts. They control all of the monetization. They could just turn it off, lower it, up it, whatever. They've got ads and no ad share, and any governance and development and stuff on LBRY is all done by them. There can be third-party developers, but there isn't really. And just all the governance, any kind of aspect of centralization or decentralization, all is centralized with the kind of they market themselves as being decentralized and blockchain and censorship resistant and all these things, but it's really not the case. And they really led people to believe that LBRY the application was dramatically more decentralized than Odysee, but if they remove something on Odysee, it's going to be removed on the LBRY application and vice versa. It's pretty much all the same thing. I know LBRY is just the protocol and this is the decentralized app. I understand all the nuances. I'm not going to explain all of that. I'm explaining today why I'm concerned and why this isn't what it really started out as or led people to believe, right? So I have a lot here, so I'm just going to go through this document and explain all of this, because it's just unfortunate to see, but this is the reality of where we are. So when it started out, there was no KYC of any kind. You could just earn LBC. I didn't have to do anything special. I just used an email. That was it. Now, today, if you want to, get verified so you can actually earn crypto. Sorry, let me just find the link on here. You have to do all of this stuff. You have to use Discord, use 2 social networks, and these are pretty much they're not going to accept Hive and random social platforms. At least that's my assumption. So presumably you're using legacy platforms, and Discord has KYC with email, phone, all that stuff. So, and if you use Twitter or Facebook or whatever else, they have all those KYC details as well. So basically they need everything but an ID, which is, really unfortunate. Plus, this is a manual process. So it's completely just up to whoever is the moderator who's doing the approvals. They could be biased or whatever. It's not like you're going to, have an appeal process and do all this stuff. It's done manually, just like anything else. It's, just like getting verified on Twitter. You have to apply. Someone's going to review it. Whatever. They've introduced all of these possible spots in this process where someone could, in a non-trustless way, deny your application or make a mistake or whatever. The point being that if it's really decentralized, you make it trustless and it's using the blockchain, and you don't allow for human error or bias to come into play. But that is not the case, right? So, and I understand why they're doing it, to make sure that there isn't bots and things like that, and et cetera, et cetera. But the reality is, this is what we have now, a kind of KYC verification process, which you wouldn't have with like Re.cash or Hive or DTube or many, many, many other platforms that are available. Don't have this problem where they control the monetization. The reason that this is so important is if you're leaving YouTube and other platforms because you're like, oh, this sucks, they demonetize me, they censor me, there's no difference here. Like, they control the monetization 100%. It's still all the same situation, right? Not very alternative or successor to YouTube with that kind of a mechanic or feature for the platform. So moving on. Originally, you could freely just earn LBC. It was inexpensive to post because now, you always had to pay to post, but they're giving you less LBC to be able to post. So you're probably gonna have to buy LBC just to be able to do stuff. And I've noticed the fees continually going up and up and up and up. And eventually it's like, okay, how much money am I going to be spending to post a video or make an edit or do whatever? I get that it's a utility token, but a platform where you have to pay to use it is just not viable at all. If you tell a layman, a normal person, you have to spend money to post, they're going to just say, yeah, I'm not going to do that. That's ridiculous. They claimed that it was decentralized. It's clearly not really that decentralized since they can just ban accounts. Again, the accounts that they were banning that I've seen so far said that they had DMCA requests for copyright or whatever. So I understand why, but the fact that it's possible makes it not decentralized, obviously, like by definition. So, but they say, well, you can go and spin up your own wallet server and like do all these gymnastics to make it work. I mean, they say the same thing with like claiming your 100K airdrop, but no one is doing that kind of stuff. Maybe a tiny fraction, like a handful of people, like literally like 10 people might do that to test it out and see, but their entire user base is not going to be doing all this extra stuff. And it's not that they don't want that, because they came to the platform to not deal with censorship. So obviously that is what they want, more or less. But they make it so challenging to actually do, and they don't really have third-party developers who are actually working on this stuff much. And maybe they do, but nothing that I've seen or had people using or recommend. And I'm in that ecosystem and I don't see anything really popping up like we see, like the type of development happening on Hive with hundreds of interfaces, like thousands and thousands of developers. Everything that I see from LBRY is all done by them, and they have the governance, they have the monetization control, they can ban channels. Really feels just like YouTube, honestly. So yeah, they claim they were decentralized and that it was different from Odysee, but that's not the case. They claim that they were not only a YouTube alternative, but a successor. And I'm here to tell you that that's really not the case. They're just another version of YouTube. the too long didn't read would just be that they're introducing ads with no ad share for us creators. You have to pay to use the platform. They want you to pay with a credit card. They want you to KYC. They don't want to pay out the LBC that they promised to creators. And, you know, while you can email them and do it manually and go through all this like extra work, in the thing that we were given. So to make this clear, what happened was, here, I'll come out here. What happened was 2.5 years ago or so, February 14th of 2020, LBRY gave out these little USB sticks with 100,000 LBC time locked for 2 years to unlock on February 14th of 2022 for founding creators of the platform. People like myself who were there from basically the beginning and really helped grow the platform. I was a part of the LBRY first exclusive program. I got like extra rewards. You know, they helped promote my content when I was starting out. And, you know, I learned all the mechanics of LBRY and did all the stuff. And I even had an education channel on how to use LBRY. And I was on LBRY so far back to where you had to claim your rewards using the command line on the application. So way before even Odysee existed. I've been here since the beginning. So it is of no, you know, like I'm not happy to do this video. This is very unfortunate and I don't want this to be the case, but this is the reality and I'm unbiased and I review social media platforms. So here we are discussing the social media platform and being upfront about all the problems. So the reasons why I'm concerned, I'll get into all this. Actually, I'll show you guys my founder creator thing. So, you know, I'm also like telling the truth about this. For a very long time, I had this in the back of the studio and I proudly, you know, displayed this as a founding creator and yada yada. But to me now, this is like meaningless because it's not what it was when I received this. And the sad part is that they had all of us kind of promoting the platform and posting LBRY exclusive first videos and all this kind of stuff because we had this time locked LBC. And the idea was that the value was going to go up and then you were going to make a lot of money for when you finally did cash out. But they gave us this LBC during their SEC lawsuit. So they knew that they would announce it publicly before we actually got to cash out. Naturally, it skyrocketed up to like 40 cents and then crashed all the way down to like 4 cents. And that's when we get to actually sell. So it felt like a rug pull in that way. Not that I'm claiming that's what this is, but yeah, let's get back to this. So they gave us that 100,000 to do the promotion and stuff. And the whole point of it was that we were supposed to be able to claim that February 14th of 2022. It even said in the instructions that they've already coded it. They just need to enable it. So enable it. It's been 2 months now since then. They still haven't enabled it. And they're like, well, you can just email us and do all this stuff manually or go through this really strenuous process to actually claim it. And they put all the onus on you, even though they promised us all this stuff and had us doing all this free promotion and all these things. I've referred thousands of users. I'll share that on my referral area, my invites. Literally thousands upon thousands upon thousands of users. Like I think close to 3,000 users I've referred to this platform. So it's kind of insane that after all that, it's really not what I was kind of referring them to. And it's been made much, much worse. One thing that I didn't really understand or look into enough when I originally was getting into it was that their tokenomics were so flawed because it was way too short-sighted because it's a scarce token. And they clearly thought they had more runway to like figure things out and get their ad share going where they buy it back and stuff. But the fact that there's no inflation makes it so challenging to actually work those tokenomics effectively. And it's just going to make it so that it gets way too expensive to just do anything. And that's why I'm saying this isn't going to be viable, because it's going to get more and more and more expensive to post on the platform. And they're giving out less and less rewards to even be able to fund that and afford to do that without having to pay for it, which you also need to do with the credit card and KYC and all this extra stuff, unless you're savvy enough to go and do it and transfer it over. But the average person is prompted generally to just use a credit card, which feels like mines, which I don't like. So the governance of LBC and LBRY is 100% centralized and controlled by them, Lab from Mars, right? The governance of the platform and the protocol and the currency, cryptocurrency itself, monetization aspects, everything is controlled by them entirely. They can ban channels on a decentralized application, right? Let me get the link to that because I didn't include that here. All right, so I've added that. And this is just one example where they took down all of this person's content due to a complaint under a Copyright Act. That makes sense. So I'm not saying like you're not allowed to ban copyright material. You are, and I understand why you have. The problem is that you claim that this part, Odysee, is centralized and that this, LBRY, is decentralized. However, if I go and try to go to the same thing, or what is it? Sorry. Get the exact one here so we're not making any mistakes. Oh, I can't even. How can I get to his portfolio or his profile? Okay, well, you get my point, right? Like, I was trying to. Oh, here it is. Okay, there we go. So yeah, it's the same thing here, right? Like, this explains why they have to do it or whatever, and you can report them and get them to take stuff down for you. But my point is, if this was supposed to be decentralized and they are taking stuff down, even if they have good reason to take it down, this shows that they can just take things down. Like, and there's nothing preventing them from taking down your content or my content or whose ever content. In the same reason that the problem with the verification process is that they could be biased or make a mistake or whatever. They've introduced the ability to censor and shown their hand that clearly this isn't really decentralized and this platform isn't really what people expect to be dealing with what they've been marketed and sort of promised. So that is a problem. Let's go back to this. Yes, you can spin up your own server and do all this extra stuff to be able to see it, but who is going to do that? And is someone going to continue to run that server and support it and do all this extra stuff? No, that's not really realistic. I appreciate that they've given you the ability, but the reality is no one's going to be seeing that. Like, maybe a handful of people. Having the ability is good, but it's not good enough, because this is just not going to be the reality for 99.99999% of users, which is a problem because they're supposed to be coming here to not deal with censorship. They completely nuked rewards. I used to be getting like a really good amount, and now I earn less here than I do just from Brave browser rewards, just from having my ads turned on. I don't even have to create content and I can earn more. I get like less than 1% of what I used to get. So essentially negative 99% of monetization. And every like couple of weeks, they lower the rewards for everything, like all the little claims that you can do to earn money and all the little ways to earn rewards. And they don't even have the option to view that for some reason on the app now. But if I go to rewards, you can see every single month I get less and less and less and less and less. And these rewards that they give out have been less and less and less and less and less. Now for watching, you only get a tiny, tiny amount, and you have to watch for at least 3 days and do all this stuff. And referrals are now like 1 LBC per referral, and they just keep lowering the amount that you can get. So monetization is just always declining. No one wants that, right? That's why you leave YouTube, because you could be demonetized, your money is going down, you don't trust it, it's not reliable. This is the same issues, all the same issues. The tokenomics are completely flawed, as I said, because it's scarce. It doesn't really make sense for this model unless they're able to get like a just-in-time delivery of perfect buying back and trading of ad share between like the users. It just doesn't really make sense. And you have to rely on people to like buy it and spend it to use the platform, etc. Just really doesn't make sense. And this is the same kind of like issues, I would say, where all of the original creators are getting tons and tons of money, and then they just start nuking rewards, and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. It's kind of like what we saw with like Uptrend, SoMe, BitClout, platforms that had rug pulls. And I'm not saying this was a rug pull where they went from 41 cents to 4 cents as they conveniently announced the SEC case. And it just feels weird timing. Like, I'm not going to just assume that it was, malice. But I'm very, very suspicious about all of this because, why did they make it so hard for us to claim, et cetera, et cetera, We talked about the verification process. Again, the biggest issue isn't that, that they have censorship. It's not that evil people exist. It's that you're giving them the ability to censor people who might even just make mistakes or whatever, when you could have avoided that with blockchain technology. They could have used IPFS. They could have done so many different things, but they didn't. They just announced ads, so now there's going to be more ads on the platform, and there's no ad share, of course. So, even YouTube pays ad share to creators. You have to pay to post, as we said. They have a new premium membership, so you don't have to see ads, but you have to pay for it with a credit card and KYC, just like Minds does with their Minds Plus. And Minds sucks now. So they're taking after terrible centralized platforms that pretend to be blockchain platforms. There's no incentive to keep holding LBC because I've done everything in the mechanics of using LBC to its max, doing reposts with different URLs, supporting my content every time I post it, getting like the best keywords and, bidding up on them to get like the best awareness. I did everything in the book that I would argue probably 99.999% of users have no clue about, because I don't see anyone else really doing it or competing with me or doing any of that stuff. But for some reason now all of that stuff really doesn't do anything for visibility, or, I could put 100,000 or 10,000 and I get the same amount of views. Like all the mechanics that used to make it great, that why you would use LBC, are all kind of like gone now off the platform. Like they don't really have that same impact. And you have to spend LBC and all this stuff. And it's just, there's no reason for me to keep my LBC other than just sell it and just try to get as much value as I can by extracting that and just selling it as soon as possible. There's no reason for me to hold my LBC anymore. I was at least incentivized to keep it so I could do supports on my video and do different things. Now none of that matters. And if I were to like bring up my transactions on the platform, you would have been able to see, like in the past, I literally have done millions upon millions and millions of transactions, tested all these different keywords. I did everything in the book to like fully use this platform to the best of my ability. And then I went and made a second channel where I explained all of this and how to use it and how to do all this stuff. And, it was great. It was great when it actually worked and did the stuff that it was supposed to do, right? And all right, let's go back here. So there's no incentive to keep holding it. Also, this is just like pure speculation, but it feels like the reason why they didn't allow us to claim the money that we were owed is because if you look at, for example, the last 24 hours of volume of LBC is only about 40,000 trade volume, which is 1.1 million LBC for an entire day of volume. That would just be 11 founding creators getting their 100K airdrop LBC or whatever time unlock, and then selling it. I don't know how many they gave out to, but I can guarantee it was more than 11. So say there was even just 100 of us and we all sold, the price would completely tank. So it feels like the reason that they're making it so challenging is to avoid that exactly, which kind of would be price manipulation of LBC. But that's just pure speculation, right? I'm not going to attribute malice if it was just laziness or mistakes or whatever, but it really doesn't feel like they're putting any effort to fix this or actually do this. It's just like if someone brings it up, then they're like, "Oh, okay, you know, we'll let you do it manually or whatever now that you're upset." It's like a cell phone company, you know, they do some awful stuff and they just ignore you until you start making a fuss and then they deal with it, which I don't like my cell phone company. So, and you might be thinking, hey, who is this guy? Who even cares what you think? You might be just lying or whatever. Well, I'm not a nobody because, you know, as you saw, I am a LBRY founding creator, you know, signed by Jeremy Kauffman at the bottom there. I've interviewed Jeremy Kauffman and Julian Chandra, and according to LBRYnomics, which is the probably biggest open source directory of statistics and in data and whatever for LBRY, you can clearly see that I'm the 47th most popular creator on the platform. I was previously as high as like 23, something around there, but being that I'm in the top 50, you could imagine that I obviously have something to lose by explaining all this and doing this sort of expose. There's really nothing for me to gain, just something for me to lose, like LBRY users who are upset with me or whatever. But, you know, I genuinely believe that all of the previous mechanics, all the things that kind of made this platform good, or what I was led to believe made this platform good, aren't really the case anymore. And I can't find a very good reason for me to even recommend LBRY aside from just having another backup that you can post to and earn a tiny amount if you're willing to go through all their verification processes. I'm still going to use LBRY. I'm not saying I'm not going to use LBRY, but when I do my yearly recommendations for social platforms that are decentralized, censorship resistant, you know, have good monetization, all the things that LBRY doesn't really offer anymore, this will not be recommended, clearly. I've poured countless hours into this platform, teaching people, doing all this stuff. So again, this isn't just FUD. This is the reality of the situation. If they don't hard code in all the stuff that they claimed and wanted to do and said they wanted for decentralization, all these things, then they're not real promises that you can really rely on. If it's not trustless, if it's not a part of the blockchain, if it's not in the code, then it's not reliable. And yeah, again, this is just talking about how I do think it's kind of sketchy the way that they set up the time lock and the airdrop with the SEC lawsuit and the announcement. And they knew that the SEC lawsuit was happening when they gave us this, and kind of sketchy. In this blog recently, this is pretty damning. They said, LBRY is not the future of Web3 social video. And they also said, the future of LBRY social video is Odysee, their centralized version of LBRY. So I think that perfectly sums things up. Yes, they don't intend it to be Web3, decentralized. They want it, the future of it is the centralized version and not kind of the stuff that they originally promised or were talking about. And again, anyone who says, oh, Odysee is just one interface, you can go and just make your own and, spin up your own server and stuff. While that's great, that's a disingenuous argument, because that's not what people are doing. That isn't the reality, the results that we're actually dealing with today, and what 99.9999999% of users are going to experience. So that's not really realistic. I've included the Twitter thread that I started talking about all this. You can see Jeremy's responses. I think they're fair responses, but they don't change the reality of the situation and the results that we have to deal with now. So if you're sitting here wondering, then what should I use instead? I'll recommend 3Speak on Hive, DTube, any kind of platforms that don't have KYC. You can fully monetize and there's no restrictions. They are decentralized and use the blockchain and post content to the blockchain and, try to use IPFS and, whatever protocols that allow them to actually offer what they're claiming. I think those are two great spots to start. I mean, I'm on a million different platforms, but most of them are on that same level with LBRY, where they like free speech, but they don't do enough to genuinely actually uphold it in the code in the blockchain. They want to believe it and they market themselves as that and they say things, but I'd rather rely on what is actually the case in the actual code itself versus what they're telling you. So that's pretty much everything for me today, guys. I say this with a heavy heart. I don't want LBRY to be, not recommended. Maybe once they've got the ad program kind of fleshed out and they start doing ad share, it'll just kind of be another version of YouTube and you'll be able to actually make a reasonable amount of money on here. Still not sure how it's going to work with the scarcity of LBC and how they'll try to balance that all out. But, the reality is, LBRY is still a platform I'm going to be using, but I'm not going to be recommending it. It's unfortunate, but this is true. And again, this isn't me going after LBRY. I just owe it to my fans and to the people who follow me for getting the best possible information about decentralization, censorship, monetization, and blockchain, social, and crypto monetized social media platforms. I've got to, I've got to talk about this as well. So that's the reality. Sorry to LBRY users and Odysee users who are upset about this or who think I'm being disingenuous or lying. This is all true. It's just, you'll have people say, yeah, but you can spin up your own thing, or they only took down that platform or that channel because of copyright. It's like, yes, I understand why things are happening or that things are possible, but this is what we have today. So you tell me, am I overreacting? Am I wrong about any of this? Am I missing something? How important is decentralization, true decentralization, and the ability to monetize and, have censorship resistance? How important is that really to you? Are you going to keep using Odysee and LBRY in the same way? Are you going to explore different platforms? You're going to look elsewhere? What are you going to be doing with the information that I've provided? Let me know if this was helpful and informative. Again, I say this with a heavy heart. I'll be happy to sort of re-recommend them if they change things, but I think by design, it's really not possible at this point. At the very least, getting the ad share fleshed out and sharing with creators will be a positive, going in a positive direction, but really, it's just another YouTube. Sorry to say. Anyways, that's everything from me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do comment #1ham in the comments below, and that way I know you watched the whole video. Anyways, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, signing off. Cheers.